lot that shipped at I/O. I want to focus a little bit on the agent stack because we actually talked a lot about different aspects of agents that we've been trying to roll out for folks. And I would say that there's kind of 4 layers to it now. We have improved models. We've got Gemini 3.5 Flash that was announced. It's the new default. We have orchestration, so ADK 2.0 and the agent CLI. How you build and how you ship your agent story has gotten a little bit more simplified. You don't have to necessarily go hunting down for what are the skills and best practices you need to use. Just use agent CLI. We've got the managed agents story, the managed agents API. We've got skill registry, Antigravity. There's so many pieces in here. And then we have the platform, which includes, the agent platform that we announced at Next, as well as things like Model Garden, which have just continued to get better and better over time. So I think about this in terms of 4 rungs to get your production agents in place. So if you picture a ladder, we have a rail running up to the side, and that rail is really A2A. It's the agent-to-agent protocol. So everything that you see here interops. Even though we've given you more and more optionality in terms of like where you can start building agents, all of these solutions can interop together using A2A. So our first rung here is Agent Studio. It's low code. It's for people who want a UI. It's for people who want to start off with something very visual and then convert it to code to work with ADK. Rung 2 is the Managed Agents API. This is one call. It's fully hosted. The way to think about the Managed Agents API versus ADK is that Managed Agents API is for people that are looking for a configuration-first approach to agents, whereas ADK is more engineering first. It's kind of like when you have more experience with agents, when you really want full control over as much as possible, ADK is a fantastic solution. And Managed Agents API is really great for folks who are perhaps just getting started and maybe just want to be able to configure and have the platform figure out the rest for you. Rung 3 here is Antigravity. We talked a lot about Antigravity at I/O, Antigravity 2.0. The builder experience, you can use it with agent platform. You can see that, many tools are now kind of converging on this idea of helping you manage and orchestrate multiple agents, whether that is for coding or accomplishing other tasks, whether it's design or marketing that your business might have. And Antigravity is great for that. And rung 4 is ADK 2.0. So it's the full code level control. And the point here is really that you don't have to just pick one of these and get locked in. You start where your team is today and you climb. So we've got that same protocol behind the scenes, same platform the whole way up. Everything else is sort of a rung or a rail in this ladder when it comes to building agents on the platform. ADK 2.0 is something we've recently been talking about. It's now GA. And really, previously, orchestration was more imperative. And the big change that we've made here is making ADK more graph-based. So what this kind of gives you is the ability to describe an agent workflow as a graph of steps. Why that matters is that, sometimes you want something that is deterministic, and sometimes you want something that maybe is a little bit more creative, or where you don't necessarily need to have as much of that determinism. And we really just give you a slider now where you can choose which one of those best fits your needs. For long horizon tasks that run for minutes or hours, that's also something that ADK better supports now. And this is the same engine that sits under those higher rungs on the ladder that I was talking about. So if ADK is our runtime, the agent CLI, which we announced at Cloud Next, is how you live in it day to day. So you can scaffold a new agent, you can run it locally. I actually just want to play for you a quick demo that we can see there while I talk through it. So you can scaffold a new agent, you can run it locally. It can help you write evals, deploy, and that deploy target is agent platform. So it also becomes an auto scaling service with no infrastructure to manage. I found this really powerful, especially for being able to use something that understands the end-to-end workflow instead of me having to memorize like a ton of disparate commands with different tools. So Agent CLI is something I heavily recommend folks check out. Managed agents, I mentioned it on that ladder. This is one of the lowest friction entry points to that whole ladder, right? And so with a single API call, you're able to spin up an agent that can reason and call tools and execute code. And the keyword here is managed. You're not provisioning sandboxes or babysitting environments on your own. And it also is persistent. So each interaction can keep its files and its state so you can resume in a follow-up call. Really, really cool stuff. You mentioned skills registry earlier. We I think a lot of people know what skills are, but just in case you need a recap, skills are really how you teach an agent something new without having to retrain it. They're markdown files, they have instructions, they have tools. Businesses have been wondering, like, okay, well, how do we think about these things? And the skill registry is really a private repository for those skills that are scoped to your organization. The interesting part is not necessarily the fact that you have this registry, but it's got dynamic discovery as well. So an agent doesn't ship with skills baked in. It's going to look at what's in the registry and load only what the current task needs at runtime. So you kind of get two wins at once here. You have a shared governed library where you write a skill once and every agent in the org can use it. And then you've got leaner agents. They can pull skills on demand instead of carrying everything. And this is something that I think is really powerful. At Google, as we've been seeing teams roll out skills, a big question was, how do we share these? How do we make sure that everyone in the org even knows what skills are available? How do we make sure our agents know what skills are available? So the skills registry is a powerful primitive for really unlocking a lot of that value without you having to do it yourself. Antigravity, a lot of airtime at Google I/O. It's our agent-first development platform. You'll see us not just talking about this for coding, but also just broadly, like as a good place to be able to manage your agent tasks. We've got a desktop app, which is now your mission control, a single place to steer, orchestrate whole cohorts of your agents that run in parallel, whether that's with dynamic sub-agents, schedule tasks, any of that background automation that you want. And we also now give you a few different surfaces. So we've got the 2.0 desktop app, we've got a CLI for terminal people, and an SDK so you can kind of host the same agent harness on your own infrastructure. And for cloud customers, it also plugs directly into Agent Platform. So agent activity can run inside your security boundary and inherit your data protections. I think that this is really, really cool. Folks heard about our new model launch, Gemini 3.5 Flash. This is our new default model for tasks that try to balance cost and effectiveness. And it's tuned for, I would say it's tuned for agentic, again, long horizon work. We've talked a lot about long running agents. This is tuned for long horizon work as well. And it's roughly, it's many times faster than our previous models. And it actually beats Gemini 3.1 Pro on a number of benchmarks that matter for agents. It was co-designed with our new TPUs in mind. So the model and the hardware were built together. And so recommend folks try it out. Always, we're looking for feedback. And so if there are cases where this is great or cases where you feel it needs a little bit of work, let us know. We would love to continue improving. And we also had Gemini Spark. So this is something that fits a little bit between those consumer and developer worlds. Spark is sort of the user-facing face of a lot of this. It is a 24/7 personal agent. Many folks have been playing around with like, what does their personal agent setup look like on the side? And I would say a lot of it has been with duct tape and hope. Sometimes, we will give agents access to a lot of things and not really know, like, is that safe? Is that, is it okay? Am I going to wake up to a large bill because the agent went and did something I wasn't expecting? One of the cool things about Spark is that it runs in dedicated VMs in a managed runtime. And that lets it keep working in the background even while your phone is locked. It learns a lot of your context as you're working with it, who you work with, what your writing style is. It's able to execute multi-step work across Google Workspace and its connectors. So you start to get a slightly more secure story and an organized story around how you are allowing other sources of data, other providers to come into the picture, which I think is really important. And so every task that you use with Spark runs in a fresh, isolated ephemeral VM, so data shouldn't necessarily be overlapping. It's new. I think it's exciting. I hope folks check it out. And we've also had other announcements. We mentioned agent payment protocol as well. This is really useful as a guardrail layer for transactions. And the flow here is simple. You set a mandate, like what the agent is allowed to spend, on what, and with what limits. The agent can plan, it can operate strictly inside that envelope. And I think this is another one of those problems where people have been wondering, well, if I want my agent to be able to complete end-to-end tasks for me, sometimes those may indeed involve commerce. So I think that AP2 is going to be interesting for some folks as well. But everything that I've described, I would say fits on one platform. A lot of these services actually do the work underneath. And so whether we are talking about, agent platforms, agent runtime, our distributed execution, our agent executor, our agent sandbox, or any of these pieces, I think that, these can help you build out a production agent system that gives you confidence that you can run them without having to worry about things like traceability, abuse, right? I love agent identity because it helps me reason about like, what are the agents that are going off and doing things at any particular time so that I can, if I need to debug that, it's a little bit easier. And then I love governance because I'm able to kind of limit the blast radius of what my agents can do. And that gives me the confidence to kind of deploy these agents to production. So a lot of cool stuff that is shipped. Going to give a shout out to Model Garden. There are so many agents now available on Modern Garden for people to go and start using as a template, as a starting point. And many of these have now been influenced by what we've been learning from the real world, building agents, talking to customers, understanding what common problems people have been running into. And what I also wanted to very quickly talk about, because it might not necessarily be about agents, but I kind of love the Gemini Omni announcements. What do you think? Were you excited to see Omni?
I thought this was one of the coolest new releases that we had.
Last year, folks watched Google I/O. Nano Banana was a big deal. It kind of brought Gemini's intelligence to images. Whether that was editing, restoring photos, designing from sketches, and Omni is really that same leap, but for video. And the one line pitch here for folks is that Omni can create anything from any input. That can be text, images, audio, video. It can kind of take all these ingredients and then it can create a high quality video out of them. And it's crucially grounded in Gemini's real world reasoning. So what it knows about the world, not just, the data that you're giving it, but what it knows about the world. And that kind of unlocks a lot of use cases. Now, the first model shipping here is Gemini Omni Flash. And so the idea here is that it's a creation model, not just a generation model. It can reason about what it makes. And it's really a natural building block on top of some of our previous work around Nano Banana. So similar DNA, Gemini natively multimodal from the ground up, just on a harder medium. So the mechanic that kind of makes Omni different is this. Most video tools will take a prompt. Omni is able to take lots of different references, of any type. And I was just mentioning some of those. So you can hand it an image of a character. You can hand it a sketch of a scene, a voice clip, an existing video, and a line of text or a spec. And it can fuse all of this into a coherent clip. So voice references for audio are also supported. Other types of audio input are going to be supported at a later point. But the thing I want to stress is it's not just a collage that this is creating. This can reason about how those different inputs you give it relate so that the output can really hold together as a full scene. And so there were some fun demos that we started to share around Omni in case folks missed these out. This example is a plain handheld shot of somebody in a room, and the prompt asks for the mirror to ripple like liquid and the person's arm to turn reflective. Omni was able to do that while keeping everything else consistent. The person, the lighting, the physics of the room, all of it. And when I first saw this, I was like, this actually looks really, really cool. you could imagine this being, a clip from, a sci-fi show or something. It's really, really neat. And I wanted to show you this as well. We've been sharing a few examples of, what makes Omni special, and it's grounded, right? So it can understand physics. It has an intuitive feel for gravity, momentum, dynamics. So motion looks, pretty believable in this. And so I've been very interested in Omni for things like avatars, like being able to create maybe a digital version of myself or put myself in other videos. I love that you can play around with this idea. And every video that Omni produces also carries a watermark. We've talked a lot about synth ID and the importance of being able to ID these AI generated videos. I thought that was very cool as well. But Omni is awesome. Omni Flash is rolling out on the consumer side right now. You will see it appear in other places in Google, the Gemini app, Flow, YouTube Shorts, and eventually you can also see this, rolling out to the agent platform as an API. But what I want to show you is my own example of using Omni last night, because yesterday was, the last day of I/O. I just had to play around with it.
Hey everyone.
And I'm going to play that one more time.
Hey everyone.
But what I loved was it was able to take photos of me, disparate photos of me. It was able to take photos I had taken of myself around the Google I/O logo. I took a separate photo of the band that was at I/O. I pulled all of these together, and it was able to create a coherent scene that looks like it was a video I took live at I/O. I love Omni. I think it's awesome.